The power of collective action has become increasingly evident in recent years, with social movements and protests emerging in different cultural and political contexts worldwide. This essay examines the impact of 4 specific examples of collective action: Black Lives Matter, Iran's hijab protests, Dutch farmers' demonstrations, and the protests in France against pension reforms. The Black Lives Matter (BLM) movement originated in the United States in response to the unjust treatment of black individuals by law enforcement and the criminal justice system. The movement gained global traction, with protests occurring not only in the U.S., but also in various countries around the world. BLM brought attention to systemic racism and police brutality, leading to discussions on criminal justice reform, defunding the police, and promoting racial equity. In Iran, hijab protests have gained momentum as a response to the mandatory dress code for women, which requires them to wear a headscarf in public. These protests, fueled by a younger generation seeking greater personal freedom and gender equality, have continued to challenge the restrictive dress code imposed by the Iranian government. Although the Iranian government has responded with arrests and penalties, the protests have generated international attention and support. In the Netherlands, Dutch farmers organized protests against new environmental regulations aimed at reducing nitrogen emissions. These regulations would have directly impacted the agricultural sector, leading to a reduction in livestock numbers and affecting farmers' livelihoods. Thousands of farmers participated in the protests, utilizing tractors to block highways and even storming government buildings. The government subsequently amended the regulations, demonstrating the effectiveness of collective action in influencing policymaking. In France, widespread protests erupted in response to President Emmanuel Macron's proposed pension reforms, which included raising the retirement age. The movement brought together various groups, including labor unions, public sector workers, and private sector employees, who were united in their opposition to the government's policies. These protests led to nationwide strikes and disruptions, ultimately forcing the government to reconsider the proposed reforms and engage in dialogue with the affected groups. In conclusion, the examples of Black Lives Matter, Iran's hijab protests, Dutch farmers' demonstrations, and the protests in France against pension reforms demonstrate the power of collective action in demanding change and holding governments accountable. By uniting for a common cause, citizens from various cultural and political backgrounds can influence government decision-making and bring about positive transformations. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss our future videos.